Hello everyone, welcome to another rapid speedrun game against Me2 3000, rated 1801. Let's see if we get a Scotch Gambit on the board. We do. We play Bishop c4, initiating the Scotch Gambit lines, aiming at the king and the weak f7 square. He responds with Bishop c5. Now you guys know the motif by now. What do we do with Bishop c5? c3. Why? To open up the d line for our queen. Why? To abuse the d5 square and tactics against the king. He doesn't take. Instead, he just develops a new piece with a threat. Fine. So now we want to continue our initiative, our lead in development, by castling, preparing rook e1 if he takes the pawn. But he's smarter than that. He just castles. He's 1800. He knows better. Okay, so in this line, we can continue with e5 pawn push, threatening the knight. The only move, or the most principled move, is d5 counter-attacking strike. But you see how a lot of players don't play that or know it? He goes to the side. This does double attack the pawn. Keep it in mind. But now it's too late because we can not only defend it with rook e1, but what about if we take our pawn back? C takes. It's well defended, so now we're not down material and we have a strong center, and he doesn't have any pawn presence. So we didn't get the lines where he falls for a tactic and he can't castle. We didn't get the lines where we win material. This is just a line where we get a pawn presence in the center. He takes back. What just happened? So we have a pawn chain. He gives up a piece. We take a piece, but instead of taking the piece back, he takes the pawn. So he just sacrificed a piece to destroy that strong center. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but totally losing. Has to be. Okay, so we're up a piece in effect for these two pawns. He's hitting our bishop. We don't want to give him this nice, beautiful bishop on this nice open board now. We're going to try to use that extra piece and maybe attack him. Okay, so he goes trading, but this improves our queen with threats in the center of the board, where it cannot be harassed by a knight. Therefore, it is well placed. Okay, he goes for immediate defense, but why sack a piece and then curl up in a ball? You're just going to be down a piece even if it reaches an endgame, so it's a little weird. Let's just develop our slowest piece to its favorite square. Fine. And I don't know what black's doing. Okay, he moves his king. That allows him to push the pawn because it unpins, but why would you spend your turn pushing the pawn? So he's still not developing, so let's continue developing. Bishop. Okay, bishop out seems reasonable. Okay, he can trade, but he moved this knight like 10 times, and you're up a piece. So if he trades, who cares? It's not the end of the world. He does push the pawn, but like I said, why would you want to push the pawn and weaken your king further for no benefit? You only want to push the f-pawns when they come with beautiful duos, pawn duos. But you don't have a nice e-pawn where they could work together, so it doesn't really make sense. Because you could have just developed your rook through the open file. I don't know. Anyway, it's our turn. We get to develop yet again. So let's bring another rook down to its most obvious square. Just all logical developing moves so far. And although black's in 1800, he felt compelled to sack a piece so early in the game because of our Scotch Gambit initiative and center-focused play. You see? So he goes c6. It does stop some knight jumps. It controls the square. Maybe it prepares d5, blunting our bishop. But we'll just switch diagonals. It's not a big deal for us. And again, it's a pawn move. So he's really just asking to get hurt. Also, one of the drawbacks of this move is he's playing it before d5. That means for one moment in time, the D pawn is a backwards pawn. The D6 square is a weak square. Until he pushes the pawn to, those facts will be true. So since it's our turn, we're going to move this bishop and stick it here to take advantage of his weakness that he just created, the backwards pawn and the weak square. We do it with tempo. We get out of any possible trades, and he doesn't have a dark square bishop to snuff us out. So now our position is just getting more and more overwhelming. He's in for a rude awakening. This also is it has the same effect as a wedge pawn, only worse. So he moves his rook. He's going to be forced to trade it for ours, so I'm not going to move my other one and waste the turn. I would love to get this knight in since it's fairly dominated, but even if you reroute it, that's a trade. This actually takes 3 turns, but I think it's worth it because what is he going to do with those 3 turns, right? You could go here and try to force the rook trades. Potentially, he gets a rook, you get a rook. Well, you are actually, yeah. Let's go here because it threatens a bunch of things. First of all, we're improving the piece for free. Second of all, we're kind of forcing him to trade because his rook is just hanging everywhere. And once we get this rook in the game, then all of our pieces will be playing. And so, for example, he has a rook and I have a rook in the game, but then we also have 2 inactive rooks. But if he trades, then I'm going to have an active rook, and he'll just be left with an inactive rook, you see? So anyway, so it forces that. Also, this bishop supports a rook to the back rank, winning the queen or checkmate. There's that. And it threatens to take the knight, forcing h takes, opening the queen. Check in some lines. So it's a super dangerous move. And he's thinking. I'm not sure exactly what he's thinking about, unless he's just going to give up the exchange outright because he just feels so lost, which he is at this point. So it's only 16 moves in, but you can see how effective the Scotch Gambit can be when you focus on your development and your center, and don't worry about counting pawns, for quite a while. So me too is stumped. I don't blame him. I mean, the problem is this bishop. You see how it can't move? And this pawn is in the way? So he can never connect his rooks. That's a big problem. Because then your back rank's weak, your rook is weak, your queen and rook don't coordinate the way they should. You need your rooks connected for everything to be harmonious. That's why they often say you definitely have not completed your development until, and at least until, your rooks are connected. It adds a whole nother layer of harmony. So he takes the rook because we know that we provoked him to do it. We're now threatening immediate win by getting the queen. And he resigned. So why did he even take the rook? Why didn't he just resign before that? Weird. Okay, let's go through the game. So we have an e4 game, e4, e5. I love e4, e5 because by putting this pawn 2, it allows you to make immediate, quick contact with the pawn. Whereas if he only moves 1, like in the French, or d6 or c6, where he's avoiding pawn contact, you can't force the issue. You have to slow play the game. But here, if I go f4 on move 2, I'm forcing the issue. You can't just do what you want. That's why I like I like when they play e5, even though objectively speaking, it's very strong. Like, it's a good move for black. Anyway, development and center. And you see how immediately, by putting the pawn 2 instead of, let's say, 1 like in the French, we develop and we're attacking something, whereas we wouldn't be if it was on e6. And then our third move, we'll put a pawn, attack it again. You see how it provides a target for us? And that's why some people opt for things like the French. So there's pros and cons. Anyway, development, center. He takes. You could just take back and go in the Scotch game, learn some theory about it, watch a course, but this isn't what that is. We're doing Scotch Gambit where we develop a piece instead. Okay, we know this motif, sacking the bishop, going queen d5 check, he loses castling, we pick up the bishop. But there's a pawn in the way, we want to clear the pawn. He says, no way, I'm just going to develop. Fine. We castle, set a little trap. He could technically take it, and you could play like that, but it's tricky, and he has to know what he's doing because he's walking directly into a pin. So it looks super scary. Okay. Anyway, he doesn't go for the pawn. He makes a super natural looking move. Castle. Like, what could be wrong with castling? Well, this is my one inaccuracy of the game where I push d5. And the reason this is an inaccuracy is because of the move that I said he should play, which is d5. It allows d5. And then it's kind of an equal game where you both have to outplay the other. You have this one opportunity as white to actually take back the pawn right away because it's defended twice, and you already have your nice center. So castling was definitely inaccurate, allowing this. I moved too fast and did it in the move after. I played e5, then I took. But e5 allows d5, whereas in this version, you're hitting his bishop first, so he has to, I don't know, move it somewhere. And now, instead of e5, once again allowing d5, you have this weird option of playing d5 yourself, which stops him from playing it physically. Comes with tempo on the knight, so let's say he just moves it, and now you play e5, right? And now this is just it's just completely winning automatically. This is the whole point of the center. You can develop behind it. Okay, you know what? It's space, so it's not automatically winning. If you let him undermine it and you don't push past accurately, he'll end up equalizing and you'll just mess everything up. But a strong player wins automatically with a position like this. So we did miss this one sequence of moves, but okay. So it's not like we collapsed our position. We just missed a really cool sequence of moves that goes boom, boom, boom. 3-pawn pushes, takes, push, push. A cool sequence that bullies every single one of his 3 minor pieces that's out. First the bishop, then the knight, then this knight. Blasting through the center. And that's exactly why you want a pawn presence of yourself, of your own, so your opponent cannot do that because your pawn's in the way. Right? Perfect example, pawn presence. So we push past. He doesn't play d5, and the second he doesn't, we're back in the territory of totally crushing by taking now. And even here, Engine says the best way to mitigate the damage is to still just go d5. A strong player might, but most people won't. He just sacks the bishop, which you don't need to do. You could move your bishop. The thing is, if you move your bishop, you're in the same problem as before. Bishop g5 is here. Eventually, you're going to get pushed on again. But even before that, we're going to kick this knight, displace it, maybe rip open your king. It's just +3, totally crushing, if you move the bishop away. So this guy says, let me collapse your pawn chain. But this is also +3, totally losing, because he just hangs a piece. And even though you get 2 pawns for it, the game just started. I have all the minor pieces on the board. I'm castled. Since the game just started, your 2 pawns are going to be meaningless. It'll be as if I'm just up an extra piece in a middle game. He trades more stuff. I'm still up a piece in a middle game. And whether I'm up a piece in a middle game or an end game, I'm up a piece. And you can see how devastating it is. All we do, I don't know why I was clicking, is we get our piece out, 1 piece out, another piece out towards the center, another piece out towards the center. Now he gives us this one opportunity, and we use it. We improve a piece for free. We didn't have it last turn, right? The score's covered. But now we have it. If we don't do it this turn exactly, d5 comes, severely changing the evaluation. Sure, white's still crushing, but you don't get all this beautiful access to the light squares. You don't get to blunt his own development. You don't get a lot of stuff. And now, again, improve a piece for free, +5. That's how devastating this is. +5. You're up a rook, basically, but you're not up a rook. You're up only 1 point of material. He trades, and then he resigns up, just totally losing. I mean, this is visually overwhelming. You can just see it. It's as if these 8 points of material don't exist. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, that was a very smooth, good Scotch Gambit game. Shows you the power of pawn presence and pawn pushes, kicking away enemy pieces, and how it works. Anyway, submit your rapid games in my Discord. Good luck in your chess and goodbye.